It's the story of a submarine lost in World War II with a unique connection to Milwaukee, and also how new images from deep underwater are keeping the sub's legacy alive.
In the spring of 1944, the German submarine U-455 vanished without a trace. 51 men went down with her, and for nearly 70 years, it was as if the ocean had swallowed them whole. No wreck, no answers, just silence. Then, off the coast of Italy, a team of divers stumbled on something they were never meant to see.
The Type 7 U-boat is actually a bit on the small side. It's developed from the so-called WWII Submarine, one of the smaller submarines of the First World War.
Resting on the seafloor was not just a relic of war, but a perfectly preserved tomb. Inside lay the crew of U-455, frozen in time since that fateful day. And what the divers saw as their lights cut through the darkness left them pale, and the world stunned. Silent scream of the deep. The Ligurian Sea, off the coast of Genoa, Italy, is known for its picturesque beauty, its sparkling blue waters a popular destination for tourists and sailors alike. But beneath the sun-dappled surface lies a world of darkness and silence, a world that holds the secrets of the past in its cold embrace. It was in these depths, in the summer of 2005, that a team of Italian divers, led by the experienced Roberto Raldi, would make a discovery that would send shockwaves through the world of maritime history. They were not searching for a lost U-boat. It was way worse. Their mission was to explore the uncharted depths of the sea, to map the ocean floor and uncover its hidden treasures. But what their sonar picked up that day was no natural rock formation. It was the unmistakable silhouette of a submarine, a relic of a long-forgotten war, resting at a depth of nearly 400 feet. The thing is, this was no ordinary wreck. As the divers descended, their lights cutting through the murky darkness, they were greeted by a sight that was both awe-inspiring and deeply unsettling. The submarine was not lying on its side, nor was it broken in two. Instead, it was standing almost vertically, its bow pointing towards the surface, as if in a desperate, final attempt to reach the life-giving air above. It was a silent scream, a frozen moment of terror and struggle that had been preserved in the cold, dark waters for nearly 7 decades. The submarine was almost perfectly intact, its hull covered in a thick layer of marine growth, a testament to the years it had spent in its watery grave. As the divers swam closer, a sense of unease washed over them. The hatches were all sealed shut. There were no signs of external damage, no gaping holes from a torpedo or a depth charge. This was not the scene of a violent battle. This was something else, something more sinister. The realization of what this meant hit them like a physical blow. The crew of the U-455 was still inside, all 51 of them. The submarine was not just a wreck, it was a tomb. The divers were experienced professionals, men who had seen their fair share of underwater wonders and dangers. But this was different. The sight of the U-455, its silent scream echoing through the depths, left them pale and shaken. They had stumbled upon a ghost of the past, a story of life and its end that had been waiting to be told. The mystery of the U-455 had just begun. But what happened to the men inside? The answer is more shocking than you can imagine. The Grey Wolves of the Kriegsmarine. To understand the tragedy of the U-455, we must first understand the life of a U-boat and its crew during the Second World War. These were the Grey Wolves of the Kriegsmarine, the elite submarine fleet of Nazi Germany that terrorized the Allied shipping lanes. The U-455 was a Type 6C U-boat, the workhorse of the German submarine force. At 220 feet long, it was a formidable weapon of war, armed with 5 torpedo tubes and a deck gun. Life on board a U-boat was not for the faint of heart. 51 men lived and worked in a cramped, claustrophobic space, surrounded by the constant hum of machinery and the ever-present threat of a watery grave. The air was thick with the smell of diesel fuel, sweat, and unwashed bodies. Privacy was a luxury they could not afford. Yet these men were a tight-knit brotherhood, bound together by a shared sense of duty and the will to survive. The U-455 had a distinguished career. It was a hunter, a predator of the deep, and it had tasted success. The submarine had sunk several Allied ships, sending thousands of tons of vital supplies to the bottom of the ocean. It was part of a wolf pack, a group of U-boats that would coordinate their attacks to overwhelm their prey. For a time, it seemed as if the gray wolves were invincible, that they would strangle the Allied war effort and bring Great Britain to its knees. But the tide of the war was turning. The Allies had developed new technologies to detect and destroy the U-boats. Sonar, radar, and long-range patrol aircraft had turned the tables on the hunters. The Atlantic had become a graveyard for the gray wolves. The life expectancy of a U-boat crew was terrifyingly short. Of the nearly 40,000 men who served in the U-boat fleet, over 30,000 never returned. The U-455 had managed to survive the perils of the Atlantic, but its luck was about to run out. In early 1944, the submarine was transferred to the Mediterranean, a new hunting ground that was just as dangerous as the one it had left behind. The Mediterranean was a mousetrap, a confined body of water that was heavily patrolled by the Allies. For a U-boat, it was a death sentence. The U-455 was sailing into a trap, and its crew had no idea of the fate that awaited them. A silent disappearance. On April 2nd, 1944, the U-455 sent its last radio message. It was a routine communication, giving its position off the coast of Algiers. There was no hint of danger, no sense of impending doom. The submarine was on patrol, its crew ever vigilant, their eyes scanning the horizon for any sign of the enemy. But the enemy was not on the surface. It was lurking beneath the waves, a silent and unseen threat. Days turned into weeks, and the U-455 failed to report in. The German Naval Command grew increasingly concerned. They called for the submarine, their radio signals cutting through the airwaves, but there was only silence. The U-455 had vanished without a trace. There were no distress calls, no reports of an attack, no wreckage found. It was as if the submarine had simply sailed off the face of the earth. The war raged on, and the disappearance of the U-455 became just another statistic, another loss in a conflict that had claimed millions of lives. The families of the crew were left to wonder, to hope against hope that their loved ones would one day return. But as the years turned into decades, that hope began to fade, replaced by a dull ache of uncertainty and loss. The fate of the U-455 became one of the last great mysteries of the Second World War. Historians and naval experts speculated on what might have happened. Had it been sunk by a depth charge? Had it struck a mine? Had it suffered a catastrophic mechanical failure? There were no answers, only questions. The discovery of the U-455 in 2005 finally provided some of those answers. The lack of external damage ruled out an attack by Allied forces. The sealed hatches pointed to a sudden and unexpected event, something that had given the crew no time to escape. But what could have caused such a tragedy? The position of the submarine, its bow pointing towards the surface, was the most telling clue. It suggested that the crew had been trying to perform an emergency ascent, a desperate attempt to reach the surface before it was too late. But something had gone terribly wrong. The U-455 had become a steel coffin, its crew trapped inside, their final moments a silent testament to the unforgiving nature of the sea. The thing is, when you're that deep, even a small mistake can have catastrophic consequences. The truth of what happened in those final moments is a chilling tale of human error and cruel fate, a cruel twist of fate. The mystery of the U-455's demise was supposedly solved not by divers or historians, but by a painstaking process of elimination. The official answer, when it came, was as simple as it was tragic. The U-455 was taken out by one of its own. You see, in the treacherous waters of the Mediterranean, both the Allies and the Axis had laid extensive minefields. These were the unseen dangers of the deep, a deadly threat to any ship that dared to cross their path. The German Navy provided its U-boat commanders with charts of these minefields, a vital tool for navigating the perilous waters. But the thing nobody tells you is that in the chaos of war, mistakes happen, and those mistakes can have devastating consequences. The story goes that the U-455 was given an outdated chart. A new German minefield had been laid, a secret that wasn't shared with the U-boat's commander. As the submarine patrolled near Genoa, it sailed directly into this uncharted trap. The explosion would have been instantaneous, a deafening roar ripping through the submarine's stern. The force of the blast would have sent the U-455 into an uncontrolled dive, its stern plummeting towards the seabed. The crew, in a desperate bid for survival, would have tried to blow the ballast tanks, to force the submarine to the surface. But it was too late. The damage was too severe. The U-455 was doomed. The vertical position of the sub is a testament to the crew's final, futile struggle. They fought to the very end, their hands on the controls, their hearts pounding in their chests, as the cold, dark waters of the Mediterranean closed in around them. But is it really that simple? Many people are crazy about these kinds of mysteries, and for them, the outdated map theory just doesn't add up. It feels too neat, too clean. The thing is, when you look closer, the official story starts to get a little shaky. This is where the wild theories come in, and they are way more chilling. What if the enemy wasn't outside the submarine at all? Consider this: a mutiny. Life inside a steel tube, hundreds of feet under the water, was a pressure cooker. 51 men crammed into a space smaller than a school bus for weeks on end. Could the stress have finally snapped? A violent struggle for control in the command room could have led to a catastrophic error. A dive valve opened at the wrong time, a collision with the seabed. The sealed hatches wouldn't be a sign of a sudden disaster, but of a struggle that nobody won. Then, there's the even darker possibility of sabotage. Was there a traitor on board? Someone who believed the war was lost and decided to take matters into their own hands? A single well-placed charge could have crippled the submarine from the inside, sending it to the bottom without a single distress call. No external damage, sealed hatches. It all fits. The U-boat wouldn't have been a victim of war, but of betrayal. And what about a secret mission? This is where the story truly goes off the rails. Some whisper that the U-455 wasn't on a regular patrol at all. Think about it for a second. U-boats were the ghosts of the sea, the perfect vehicles for moving things, or people, without anyone knowing. The thing is, they say this submarine was carrying something priceless. We're not just talking about military supplies. We're talking about a cargo that could have changed history. Maybe it was Nazi gold, tons of it, enough to fund a secret government in exile after the war ended. Or perhaps it was something even more valuable, a briefcase chained to the captain's wrist, holding secret documents, the blueprints for a weapon so powerful it could have turned the tide. Some even say it was a person, a top scientist on the verge of a breakthrough, or a high-ranking official trying to defect to the Allies with a head full of secrets. Now, get this. In a high-stakes scenario like that, an accident would be the perfect cover. The U-boat couldn't be allowed to fall into enemy hands. It had to disappear. The sinking might have been deliberately arranged by its own side to make sure that cargo never reached its destination, or to silence the 51 men who knew about it forever. That haunting vertical position might not be a failed ascent, but the result of a scuttling charge, a sudden violent plunge designed to send the submarine and its secrets to the bottom of the sea as quickly as possible. The U-455 is a ghost of the past, a silent sentinel of the deep. Its discovery has brought closure to the families of the crew, but it has also raised new questions. What other secrets does the ocean hold? What other stories are waiting to be told? Let us know your thoughts in the comments below. And don't forget to like and subscribe for more incredible stories from the depths of history.